Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm going over my Goose Gear Electrical Panel with GP Factor mounts. As we all know, both these companies make great products, so let's see how they went together. I had a few hiccups along the way, and I also had some tips for you guys when you install your own panels. So let's start with the front. This is the Victron BMV 700 battery monitor, which leads me to my first tip. I would go with the Victron 712 instead of the 700 because it already comes with Bluetooth connectivity. I had to install a dongle, which takes up valuable space in the back. Here I have the breaker, the USB ports, the temperature gauge, and this is a 12-volt cigarette lighter. And down here is the switch panel. These are what I have the switches connected to. The water pump that we had installed before we got the camper. This is for the cabin lights. Has all the National Luna lights that came with the camper standard. Accessory is for the USB, the cigarette lighter, and the reading lights that come standard with the camper. The DC outlets are for the 12-volt and the USB that are on the panel. Heater is for the fireplace I'm going to have installed. It's going to have a fan, so that'll control the fan. The refrigerator is obviously for my ARV Elements fridge. The spare is for the temperature gauge, and instrument lights is for the backlight of the panel. All right, let's remove the panel and take a look at the back. I'm not going to go through how everything is wired up, but my tip for wiring is to make sure that everything is labeled. That way it'll be easier for you to diagnose a problem or replace a wire or even a component. From the factory, all the wires are ran through this hole right here on the passenger side. So I had to extend all the wires and run them along this channel here. It's called a cable tray. And down this way on the driver's side and down into this compartment right here. The panels are made from wood and coated in a black bed liner-ish paint. As expected from Goose Gear, it's high quality. For the panel, make sure you pick the correct one since they're angled on one side. If you're planning on doing the fireplace, you'll only need one side. It works out just in case you mess up because you have a backup panel. The GP Factor mounts kit comes with 3 mounts and everything required for the install. I believe everything is stainless. Now I ran into some issues when I went to install the panel to the camper. First, on my camper, the mounts did not sit flush in this channel that the bolts slide into. I had made all my measurements expecting the mounts to be flush, but when I went to install the mounts, I noticed that the mounts sat at an angle, which threw off all my measurements. So my remedy to that issue was to drill a bigger hole and use washers to space out the mounts so it laid flat, as you can see here. So then that led to another issue. Now the hole was so big that you could see it when it was mounted, and to fix that I just bought bigger washers. Finally the panel was mounted. Then I had another issue. The mounts I got pulled the panel too far back into the space, and I have so much wiring for the switch panel on the bottom that it made the panel sit at an angle. To fix that problem, I bought some nylon spacers, which are these white things here. As you can see, it still sits at an angle, but a lot better than before, and I might add another spacer there in the future. Lastly, I routed the wires to the battery and third brake light through these existing holes that were used for my bed stiffeners. They had to be removed to install the Goose Gear base plate. Some people run it through this fitment plate out to where the taillight is, but I didn't want to make new holes if I didn't need to, and I have some Goose Gear cabinets that will be covering the wiring. Because of the spacers, I had to get longer screws, which I just picked up from Home Depot. GP Factor also recommended that I put NICs on the screws so they don't lock up over time. The hardest part about the electrical system wasn't the wiring, it was mounting this panel. It was pretty frustrating, but I hope you can learn from my mistakes and the tips that I mentioned. I know it may seem intimidating trying to tackle this whole thing on your own, but it actually ends up being fun, and it's really rewarding knowing you did it yourself. And it'll be easier for you to repair anything if anything goes wrong because you'll know where all the cables are at. It also gives you appreciation for the people that do this for a living and why wiring costs what it costs. If this video helped you in any way, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you need a Prinsu rack or any accessories, please hit my link down below. And if you have any questions or anything, put them down in the comments and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.